I call this meeting of the Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees to order, that the record show that a quorum of members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and a notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 6 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. Our first item of business is going to be our opening. If you would please turn some time over to Ms. Tiffany Nelson for our invocation, followed by Misty Oldenweller, who will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you stand with me? God, we come before you this evening acknowledging that you are good. Your words say that every good and perfect gift we have comes from above. It comes from you, and we have so much to be grateful for. We're grateful for the gift of life and love, and friends and family, for community, and for all those who serve to protect and provide, especially our teachers, administrators, and all those who work on behalf of the children in our school district. We ask that you keep them all safe as they finish up this semester, and let all the things of this season fill their lives, things like love, joy, hope, and peace. Let these things fill our lives as well here tonight, and give us wisdom and insight as we continue to discern your will and your way for our lives. We pray that everything we do, say, and think be to your glory alone. We pray this all in the name of the Prince of Peace. Amen.
Amen. Hey. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas flag?
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. May be seated. Thank you, Ms. Nelson and Ms. Oldenweller. Item 2 is our citizen participation. And Ms. Godfrey, I understand we have some people signed up for tonight?
Yes, we do.
During this portion of the meeting, patrons who have signed up in advance may address the board in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, and Board Policy BED. For comments regarding an issue on tonight's posted agenda, the board will defer its discussion of this issue until this item is reached on the agenda. For comments related to any issue that is not on the board's posted agenda, the board cannot deliberate or make a decision related to that issue. We ask that speakers address their comments to the board and not to the audience. If any speaker's comments are regarding a complaint, the board directs you to its policy regarding complaints, which can be found on the district's website. Please be aware that if your purpose in addressing the board is to seek a remedy for your complaint, the board cannot discuss or respond to your concern until you have met the requirements of the appropriate district policy. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to present their comments to the board. Screens around the room will display the speaker's time. When the countdown timer reaches 0, the next speaker will be called. Ms. Godfrey, will you please call our first person?
Mark Fuska.
Dr. Noel, Board of Trustees, thank you for allowing me to speak. First, I want to say congratulations to the 3 new board members. You bring a much-needed breath of fresh air to this board and this community. I also want the other incumbents to take notice. This election, in part, was about parents tired of begging you to do your job. Parents last month left a clear message that we are tired of schools not recognizing and diagnosing disabilities in our kids. We are tired of having to fight day in and day out to get schools to help our kids. We are tired of being lied to. We are tired of having our parental rights violated. We are tired of our kids getting set up for failure. I'm still waiting on an explanation on why you spent over $100,000 to try and deny an autistic student services. Have any of you even who are on the board read the judge's ruling in our case? Have you, Dr. Noel? Skeeter, this happened while you were present on the board and assessed with your approval. My daughter was recently qualified for dyslexia services after a 2-year fight. So much for early intervention. She is now in the 4th grade. We are thankful that she is finally getting help. However, that does not give my daughter 2 years of intervention back. This one right does not change all the wrongs done in the process. During this process, we were blatantly lied to and told she did not qualify based on a law that does not exist. When we asked for this law to be cited, we were told we do not know, but we know we are right. So either everyone in your district needs to be retrained on dyslexia and what the law says, or your district personnel know the law and knowingly and purposefully lie to us. Neither option is a good look, but you need to pick one. What's especially surprising is that this is the same school, same principal, same diag that manipulated data and refused to recognize my son as autistic. How brazen does someone have to be to try and pull the same stunt twice? Further proof there are no repercussions for district employees who break the law. Will this incident be investigated, or will we also try and sweep this under the rug? And yes, our R's are recorded, so we have proof. I was hoping after speaking at the October meeting, I would have been contacted and we could have an open and honest conversation as to what's happened to my son and how to fix a broken system. This did not happen. Since then, Dr. Knoll has agreed to meet later this month. That's a good step going forward. However, it should not take parents asking to make this happen. Everyone on this board, every admin from Dr. Knoll on down should be engaged enough that when students are mistreated, when employees blatantly break the law, to want to know what happened and to make sure it does not happen again. As I have said before, no family, no student should have to endure what we have had to. Until there is meaningful change on fixing the broken SPED system, until employees who lie to parents and break the law are held accountable, I will give you my son's story in 3-minute increments monthly. Next month, I'll tell you how my son got these bruises. You want to pass it around? Okay. Thank you for your time.
Kyle Watson.
Good evening, trustees. Good to see you all. Congratulations to the new board members. It's good to see you. And that's a heavy follow, and I hate to hear that. But I'm here for a different purpose, and that is to give affirmation and thanks to existing board members and to you, Dr. Knoll. I think it's very easy in the public domain to receive criticism, and when you put yourself out there, it's going to happen. However, as someone who is intimately familiar with this district, having grown up literally in this neighborhood behind this building, gone to all the schools with my sister, having my mother work in many different schools, many friends and family, I'm a proud product of this district. And when we came back to the Woodlands in '03, we had choice. We were blessed to be able to make a choice, and we chose to keep our kids in this district. And now I have 3 daughters. One's a senior, one's a junior, and one's an 8th grader. And we have been incredibly blessed by the leadership, by the administration. And I think that y'all have had to incur some unbelievable and unforeseeable hurdles in the last several years. Not only have we had this explosive growth, but we've also had to deal with a pandemic for which it changed the entire world. I had never spoken to Dr. Knoll, not one time, not one communication. And when I reached out to him via email, he contacted me within 24 hours, set an hour of his time aside, and took a call with me when I'm sure I was one of hundreds of people contacting him. It was unbelievable. It was a gesture that I could not believe that he went through. And then the way he had to handle that with so many competing interests was remarkable. And I think we need to take time to recognize people's strengths and accomplishments as opposed to looking at things that we can criticize about others. I look around this room, everybody in here has a love for children and the love for this district. And so we need to recognize that as we come into melding boards. I'm dealing with that in the township. We all have common interest. And when we remember those common interests, we should be able to work towards that goal. And I hope that's what happens here. I thank you all for your massive commitment in time and service. I'm only beginning to learn what it means to serve in this kind of capacity in my other role. I'm here tonight personally. I thank so many of the administrators, principals, and teachers that are in this room tonight. They all shape all of us and our children. I'll leave with a quote from Aristotle. He said, "There is only one way to avoid criticism: to do nothing, to say nothing, and to be nothing." I am thankful for Dr. Knoll and for each one of you that you've chosen not to avoid criticism and do something for our district. We're all better for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jory Hersher. Jory Hersher. Scott Nelson.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Scott Nelson. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. I'm a retired energy executive. I've been in the business 33 years, but more importantly, I'm a father of 3 boys, almost 100% educated in CISD. More importantly than that, I think, is that I'm a parent that has been woken up by this most recent election and how important down ballot races are. Eye-opener. I wanted to take a moment to speak to those of you who would call this agenda extreme, the agenda of the 3 new members. Those 3 ran on a simple platform, and I'm going to paraphrase. See that community values are represented, put parents back in the driver's seat in terms of education, and drive transparency among board activity. So I'm going to share a few examples that demonstrate why their platform is needed. 1, the tenets of critical race theory have and can be found in teaching curriculum around the district in violation of Texas law. 2, Ibram Kendi, a liberal activist and leading promoter of critical race theory, was a keynote speaker at a school librarian event that CISD used taxpayer dollars to send 6 employees to. 3, paper forms provided by CISD that require school staff not to engage parents if a student exhibits gender dysphoria or confusion, very much driving a wedge between parent and student. 4, CISD board members voting as a block, obscuring their individual views and positions from us voters, and failing to publish what is being discussed behind closed doors in executive session. 5, using taxpayer dollars to purchase library books that sensationalize and normalize sexual activity, heterosexual and bisexual, for elementary and middle school students. It's a bit soon, I think. Voters this November overwhelmingly came down on the side of community values, parental rights, and transparency. None of these 5 examples are aligned with the values of the majority of voters. If, by my opposing these 5 examples, you consider me extreme, you don't believe in what's best for our kids. You believe in ideology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexander Harris.
Good evening. And I want to say, we are not criticizing. I think competency-wise, you've done a great job. There's no question about it. No one can challenge that. But there are some things here that we think will defeat what you're doing. And that's what we're talking about. So we're not here to criticize at all. And I want to speak about the library materials. I recently saw an email exchange between you, President Hubert, yourself, and a member of the community. In that you stated that, hey, if a book has to be withdrawn from the library, it needs to, and you quoted, the law that you quoted was the code 43-23, 43.23. I'm sorry, that's not accurate. Because really, if you look at your policy, the codes are 4321, which defines obscene materials, and 4324, which was not in your email. And I think there's a misunderstanding here on what it should not be in the library. And your policy, new policy is accurate. It says if a book is obscene, if a book is harmful. Now, often what happens is we look for that obscene part of a book, and we miss the harmful side. And 2 such examples are what I submitted and was rejected. And I know this is one, and this is already under consideration. And I don't see how. I think every one of you should read that book. It's about children coming into puberty and discovering their sexuality. Hey, am I gay? Am I bisexual? And just exploring. And that is totally inappropriate. The law is very, very clear. If you take Texas Code, Education Code, the 28.004, the emphasis for children is abstinence. Abstinence. That's not me, not my value. That's what the Texas Code states. And that's what we need to create an environment, because if a child gets into sex or drugs, you can have the best competency in the world, it will not happen. And that's my concern. And that's why we're here. And these books are completely harmful. This is about a girl trying to figure out if she is lesbian, or is she bisexual, or what, in her puberty years. And this is about another young man. It talks about how. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evan Berlin. Evan Berlin. Linda Long.
I'm the one with the long name and can't be long when I talk, and I tend to be that way. So I will try not to be that way. It is good to be here again. I was here, and I know repetition is the mother of all learning, and so I'm going to repeat what I did before I left to go up north last summer. I told you about when I went to my place of learning after I got out of high school. One of the principals and superintendent made a statement. He said, "You're not what you think you are, but what you think you are." I will never forget that. That burned in my soul, my heart. I actually wrote a song about it later. And my husband and I recorded it. I'll play it for you sometime. I'm sure you'll want to hear it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is so important to me. We talk about the books like he's talking about right now. And when I saw it, I actually saw it twice. The mind polluters. My mind was polluted once I saw that. I was so in shock. I was so in shock and appalled. And I got to thinking about this. What we put in our eyes, or the eyes of our children, or the ears of our own ears, or the ears of our children, our life will produce just exactly that. We can't keep doing that to our children. I love people. I love all of you here. I don't even know you, but I still love you, so there you go. But I love children especially. They are God's greatest gift to us. They are. And I just think about how we can make a change in our life, in the life of our communities, is how we treat our children. And so I just thought I would like us to think about things that we could do to make it better for our children, not worse. Because when we feed garbage into our minds, our life will produce garbage. If we produce something in our minds of positiveness and especially the Word of God, I'm an avid person for the Word of God. That's the most powerful book ever written. Put that in the minds and hearts of our children. In fact, I have a very good friend who's a geophysicist, has written a book about that. I haven't read it yet because it's probably above my knowledge, but it is so good. I've heard about it. All my friends have read it who can understand all that. It's about numbers, and I'm just not a numbers person. But I just think it's so important. When I was here last time, remember I gave you these last time? Well, I'm going to repeat that because repetition is the mother of all learning. If you don't mind, I will give this out again because we have some new board members and they need to have this as well. But this is something I as a kid in South Dakota growing up, my pastor every Sunday morning would read scripture, and then he would pray this prayer and memorize it. It's probably 60 years ago I heard it, since I've heard it. He said, he just prayed, "These are thy words, O Lord, sanctify me in thy truth. Thy word is truth." That's a prayer. And if we kept doing that over and over again, repetition, I think would change our lives. Change the lives of mine, and everybody here, and all you guys. So I'm going to give that to you again if you don't mind. No. And just think about this in your mind. If I just produce positive things to my children instead of all this garbage and trash, can you imagine what our world would be like? Just think about it and how powerful you are. You have all this, it's such a wonderful opportunity to produce goodness in our children. Please do that, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Haley King.
President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Noem, I stand before you tonight as a proud Conroe ISD student, an Oak Ridge High School War Eagle, and exactly 161 days a Conroe ISD graduate.
All right.
I stand before you to contradict the vitriolic language used currently towards public education. Because as anyone familiar with the concept of saturation bias knows, being surrounded by the concept of continued negativity makes you believe in normalcy of such. So, I submit my story, and a thank you. A thank you to a district that has provided me the opportunity, because in one generation, through a combination of public school and support from my family, I've gone from a family who didn't graduate high school or had graduation delayed to me finding out about Georgetown on Thursday and Harvard in April. There is immense power in that. There is so much power in a school system that changes paths for people. I'm here today because this district is incredible, and its staff and its opportunity in particular. Thank you, CISD, for providing people in a space for me to both learn but to grow as a human. I came to CISD young, a 5th grader, who was scared of everything and not academically inclined at all. But through the love and support of the staff, I've been able to achieve something meaningful. Teachers really are the real superheroes. I've had mentors and wisdom more than I could have ever gambled for. They truly changed my life. Somehow, through a string of deeply intentional work and probably chance, CISD has done just that. They've created a staff of people deeply committing to changing people's lives and giving everybody like me an opportunity to succeed. I'm not going to claim some insurmountable path that for me, because I know my path compared to many has been incredibly easy. But my point is public education means something. It's valuable. And CISD provides an opportunity better than almost anyone around us. I'm not saying there are issues or things to be better, but amid this conversation about things to better, we must weigh that we're doing it amidst a broken education system. Amidst the violent rhetoric against education, we must understand that our words matter, that the conversation surrounding improvements to public education must happen amidst the ideas that it's a pathway out, or that it's whatever colloquialism you want to use. For me, it was, and for so many people like me, invalidating this idea of opportunity would be invalidating to my story and so many others. To our community and our new school board, your words and your actions matter. People's stories depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kane Black.
Good evening. My name is Kane Black. I've lived in Conroe for the past 8 years, and I'm in the 9th grade, and I'm homeschooled. I'm here to talk about Texas House Bill 547 that the Texas legislature passed on May 13, 2021. Texas is the 36th state to pass a state law allowing homeschool students the opportunity to participate in UIL activities. I'd like to note that allowing homeschooled students to participate in UIL sports is a decision that UIL has put in the hands of each school district. So I'm here proposing that you please consider allowing this for Conroe ISD. Your approval does not guarantee every homeschooler the right to participate, but allows us opportunity. The opportunity to try out, the opportunity to compete, and the opportunity to represent our community in a positive way. You are the catalyst for this opportunity. You see, any of these students would have to display standards of performance, meaning they must be able to attend tryouts and earn a position. After earning a position, there are several eligibility requirements they must adhere to, such as age eligibility, payment of any fees associated with activities, provide insurance, provide transportation, residency in the school district, demonstration of academic proficiency, take a physical, and adhere to standards of behavior. There are many reasons students homeschool nowadays. I ask that you consider these students in the community and respect that they are also members of tax-paying households. I have played baseball since I was 9, with many of the players at Conroe High School. What I am asking for is the opportunity to play with them again at Farrell Park. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Carolyn Nene. Carolyn Nene. Amber Fusca.
First, I'd like to congratulate the new board members on their election. I'm excited and hopeful that CISD will start to change for the better. Sadly, I know you're not a majority on this board, but I hope that the rest of the board has taken notice and realizes that while not every parent whose child is in a situation similar to mine is comfortable speaking up in such a public manner, I think our message was clear. We want change, and if you're unwilling to provide it, we'll elect the people that will. Once again, I'm here to remind you that there's a systemic issue of underserving, or in many cases, flat out denying services for children with special needs in our district. While it's absolutely heartbreaking to watch a news story just 12 days ago regarding this exact issue, it wasn't at all a surprise, nor was your lack of response. Some of you are on social media claiming you care about fielding constituents' questions, yet not one of the incumbents sitting up here has ever reached out to myself or my husband to set up a meeting to discuss our concerns. Not before, not during, not after our due process, or any of the meetings we've attended over the years. I want you to know that's not going to stop me from coming, and it's not going to keep me from fighting for change. I will continue to come to these meetings to bring up this issue over and over again until it's resolved, if for no other reason than to let the parents out there going through the same issue know that they're not alone. I want them to know that they can reach out to myself or Mark, and we'll do the best we can to help them find an outside resource, an IEE provider, an advocate, an attorney, or just an ear to vent to. For anyone that wants their story heard but doesn't feel comfortable speaking in public, I'll be your voice. I'll keep fighting until all really does mean all. Do better, Conroe ISD.
Garrett Costello.
Somebody talked about criticism and stuff, but there's a high bar, and thank you for your service, for doing what you do. So I'm a taxpayer, voter, and parent to 3 CISD children. I'm here today to talk about transparency regarding the book review process for books under reconsideration. I have the book, it's in my phone. If I were to read it, I think you'd cut my mic off. It's that bad. So you need to read it. So I've heard there's a process for this from watching speakers at previous board meetings. I've heard about that process. But I'm very much in the dark and recommend the district shares more about the book reconsideration process. Transparency builds trust and provides exposure for areas where things can be improved. In times of little to no transparency, there is perception of hiding things from the public or proper procedures not being followed. Perception. To be more open with the process, examples include who, what, when, where, and why. Who, for instance, makes up the book review process committee? Is it a person that ordered the book? Is there potential bias? Have there been any parents on these committees? Shouldn't there be? Should there be a board member who can sit on these committees? Is the parent who protested the book allowed to attend the committee meeting and make comments? These are just questions. Has anyone asked them? Has anyone explored it? How does a parent sign up to be on a committee? I'm still in the dark on that, right? There's been a lot of time to figure this out. This is not a new thing that's come up. So which books are up for reconsideration? Maybe that should be posted on the website. These are horrific. Again, you would cut my mic off if I read that book. Why not list these books on the CISD website? Okay, so why not make the meeting public? I'm aware the Wallflower book is currently checked out by a 9th grader, and yet this book is probably going to be banned in the next meeting. I would bet it is. And yet a kid still has it out in a 9th grade campus. So something slipped through the cracks with that. I ask you to investigate that and change the law, the bylaws, or whatever you need to change, the policy. So parents should be notified of potential harmful material for their kids and make such books under reconsideration as opt-in by the parent rather than cause more emotional harm. Again, this is a book that's going to be pulled probably next month, and there's kids still reading it. It doesn't make any sense. So the district needs to be more proactive in this thing. And there's been more than enough time to get this committee process set up and to be more transparent. Emphasis, there's been more than enough time to get this set up, and nothing's been done. So to conclude, when people are in the dark, it creates mistrust and potentially paints the district in a bad light. With transparency and openness, it exposes things and provides opportunities to improve the process. It's not criticism necessarily, but we want to improve the process, and we want it to be open.
Thank you.
April Kersey.
Hello, members of the board and Dr. Knoll. My name is April Kersey, and I have a 4th grader and an 8th grader within CISD. Board members, let me begin by thanking you for your service. My father was a school board member, and so I'm well aware of the time and attention that this role demands and deserves. So thank you. Tonight I'd like to talk about 3 things. The first is unity. During the election and even in these board meetings, there have been ugly and hurtful things said, including some personal attacks. These are unprofessional and disappointing. As a constituent, I am hopeful that moving forward, the 7 of you on the board can work together in a spirit of unity and a spirit of collaboration, working in the best interest of our CISD students. Unity does not mean that you're going to agree on everything. In fact, I would like to encourage more open and public discussion among the board so CISD constituents can understand the perspectives of our board members. The second thing I'd like to talk about is change. For some reason, there's a myth that those who want change are against CISD and against CISD teachers. And let me clarify, nothing could be further from the truth. I love our CISD community, and I'm a proud CISD community member. But there are things I've observed over the past several years that need to be addressed and require change. And those things start at the top. Those change start at the top, with each of you and the expectations and direction you set for the district. CISD is a wonderful district for many reasons, but I know we can do better and that our students and teachers deserve better. As CISD leadership, I would like to see you embrace change where it's needed and where it matches our community values. Lastly, in recent years, there appear to be programs and curriculums adopted within CISD that are not focused on core education. The primary objective of CISD is to educate our children and improve proficiencies in core subjects of reading, writing, and math. I would like to see the board and CISD leadership scrutinize our current and future programs under consideration by asking the question, how is this program or curriculum advancing the core educational competencies of our students? And let the answer drive your decisions. In closing, as we move forward as a CISD community, I'm hopeful that each of us chooses to work in a spirit of unity and work in the best interest of our students, selecting curriculum and programs that help our children reach their full educational potential. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Freemeyer.
No mic needed.
Good evening,
Yeah.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. I, on behalf of the Texas State Teachers Association, the Conroe chapter, want to once again congratulate and welcome the new trustees to the board. Welcome. You were chosen, just as the members before you, to lead this large, diverse, and ever-growing district in making critical decisions that impact our students and our employees. As many strong, effective leaders can tell you, with leadership comes great responsibility and commitment. Commitment to developing and maintaining the success of all of our students and all of our staff of our Conroe ISD public schools. Please set aside your personal agendas and work together as a true school board should to fulfill the needs of our diverse, expansive community. Thank you in advance for your loyalty in making Conroe ISD an exceptional district. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Teresa Kinney.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. Animal Farm, To Kill a Mockingbird, Charlotte's Web, Lord of the Rings, Where the Wild Things Are, Captain Underpants. I'm guessing nearly everyone here at one point in their lives has read a book that has been banned. I own Village Books. My bookstore has an array of titles containing ideas as different as the world in which we live. I believe offering a diverse selection of books is critical to a bookshop's role in sharing ideas. The same is true for schools and libraries. I believe librarians vet and curate these books thoughtfully and through careful consideration. Not every book is for every student, but every student should have access to books at their reading and emotional level that speak to their experiences. Books are crucial to one's development. Books help children see themselves in the stories of others. Books enhance empathy, and books provide children with diverse viewpoints to broaden their perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seraphin Farias.
Good evening, board, Dr. Null. So I'm going to talk about reading today. I'm a father of 4. I have a child in kinder. She's just learning to read. I'm going to play you this podcast, the intro to it, because she can explain it better than I can. What if I told you Conroe ISD doesn't teach our children the right way to read? Not just our district, but several districts throughout this country. Would you believe me? I don't think I would believe myself. I came across a podcast. It's a 6-episode podcast, about 45 minutes each, that I'd like everyone to listen to. It's called Sold a Story.
I'm a reporter. A few years ago, I did a story that sparked a response like nothing I'd ever experienced. The story was about how a lot of schools aren't teaching children how to read.
It didn't seem like they were really teaching them to read. It seemed like they were teaching them to sound like they could read.
I said to my son's teacher, I was like, this isn't how we learned how to read, like meaning me and her. Like, this can't be right, right? Schools around the country use methods and materials that are based on a theory about how children learn to read that was debunked years ago by cognitive scientists. The theory is this: children don't need to learn how to sound out words because there are other ways for them to figure out what the words say.
We're going to see if the picture helps us to figure out what that word would be.
You could tell them to look at the first letter, and it'll pop out of your head if you're looking at the picture as well.
You get reports of children who finally do succeed at reading with this kind of one hand tied behind your back sort of approach, but they really don't like reading.
He doesn't look at all the letters and words. He doesn't look at all the words and sentences, and reading is miserable for him.
Shut dogs. Oh.
The kids struggle and they suffer.
Just.
Kids telling you that they're a defective person who is stupid and hates school and never wants to do anything with reading ever.
For the last few years, I've been trying to figure out why materials for teaching reading based on this debunked theory are so popular.
At its core, the theory was inaccurate.
And my reporting has led me to 4 people. I trusted that they're experts. 4 published authors who've had an outsized influence on how schools teach reading.
So I encourage you to listen to that podcast. It's called Sold a Story. It's extremely important. The purpose of the schools is to teach reading, and this podcast goes into the history of how, like when we grew up, we probably learned phonics, but the way it's being taught in schools now, it's not being taught that way. And the science is showing we need to go back to, it's called the science of reading. Katy, Fort Worth, several districts have already started implementing these changes. We will do it eventually. We best not wait very long.
Thank you. That's it? Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for your comments and for your attention. Moving on to item 3, our consent agenda. I haven't heard from anybody to pull anything out. So
Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented, Mr. President.
Second.
a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? All right. Motion carries. All right. On to item 4, Administration A, receive information regarding district-wide intruder detection audit report findings. This would be
all right, Mr. McCord.
Mrs. Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Noel, good evening. I'm here tonight to give the update on the December intruder detection audit. So what we have right now is what we hear is, remember on June 1st of this last summer, Governor Abbott required districts such as us to conduct unannounced in-person random inspections of Texas schools. This was overseen by the Texas School Safety Center, and the purpose of the audits were basically to find weak spots or ways that someone could enter school building perimeter doors, but also to make sure that districts and schools such as us were following with fidelity our multi-hazard emergency operation plans, or MEOPs. In the time since this started, our first ones occurred earlier this year. We have had 14 campuses audited. These have been random. We've received the results. Since we last met, we've had 3 campuses that were audited in November, and we've had 3 campuses that were audited in December, with the most recent one being yesterday. And over that time, we have had no findings. That is, once again, the desired outcome. They were not able to gain entry. They've met with our administrative team. We received results from the group. And so I'm happy to report that as of now, we've been successful. We will continue the effort to persist. And as I did the last few months when I bring these reports, I salute the efforts of the staff, the teachers, the parents. It takes a lot. So happy to report so far 14 have been audited. We are told that 75% of schools will be audited by May, which means I would expect if they keep that percentage up as it applies to Conroe ISD, that our number of schools each month is going to have to accelerate. So we'll see, but so far that's where we are. We want to bring that information to you as required and to let you know.
Any questions? I have a question for you, Ms. McCord. So this is something that I know has come to light because of recent issues that have been happening in our schools, especially Uvalde, to really make our schools even that much more safe. My question to you is, how many changes have you had to make it compliant and also to pass these audits? In other words, were we already doing everything we could, or have you found some deficiencies that you've had to address, and has there been any resistance from many campuses on making any of those changes?
The campuses have been outstanding. There's been no resistance, and I appreciate them, because what we've asked of them is epic. As far as the perimeter doors, that has been largely done for the last few years. We've made efforts to maintain door structures and hardwares and make sure they work and perform effectively. And I talked about this a couple of months ago, but like that door over there to my left and your right, there's just a lot of things that can go wrong with that door. And so that has been minimal. However, I will say on the inside of the building, there's been redoubled efforts. And if I had not been in a school in the last few years since I graduated in the class of 1985, I would not realize how much going on, how many people need to go places in a school. So keeping the doors secured on the inside, it takes a massive effort and coordination between the students, the administrators, the kids, the teachers. So it has been ramped up. It has been emphasized with even more fidelity, and safety even more than it was before, prioritized over convenience. But our goal is to persist. But it's something that we constantly remind our people about, and our principals constantly remind their staff about. And it also involves our maintenance department and all of our operations department, making sure that we follow what needs to happen. So we were already doing almost all of these things, but it's been ramped up with even more fidelity and more awareness.
Great.
So, and we continue to evolve, and the state even continues to weigh in, and there may be more changes coming on perimeter security. So we're awaiting that. There was a few things proposed, and that public comment period closed on the 12th, which I believe was yesterday. So we'll see what comes down the pipe from that, but we endeavor to persist.
Very good.
Not just for the audit, but because it's the right thing to do.
Sure.
It's a lot of work.
Any other thoughts or questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. McCord.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to 4B, which is receive update regarding attendance zones for elementary and intermediate schools in the Grand Oaks High School feeder zone. That,
okay.
You get to stay up there.
Yeah, I'll stay here. Sorry. So we're here to give the December update to the Grand Oaks feeder elementary and intermediate attendance zone process. So just to spiral back and remind about what is it we're doing. First off, the committee, I salute them. We've worked over 5 months, a lot of Thursdays over the last half of the year. to get to this point. The reason for the existence of the committee, the number one reason was the construction at 4550 Lexington of Dr. Christopher J. Hines Elementary School. So we are establishing the first ever attendance boundary zone for Christopher J. Hines Elementary. We're also looking at potentially, and we have a recommendation to show you tonight for consideration in January on the attendance boundary lines for Cox and Clark. And the issue we have, and the same reason that necessitated the construction of Dr. Christopher J. Hines Elementary, is the rapid growth on the east-northeast side of the Grand Oaks feeder zone. And so we're also looking at Cox and Clark. What we have, the situation is Clark is at 115% of capacity and growing rapidly with much more to come. And we need to have a plan on how we're going to address that. At this moment, we do not have plans for another intermediate school in the Grand Oaks feeder. And so we're looking at that, and we have a recommendation that we've vetted over the months and months. And also along the way to look at what we can do potentially to help other elementary schools in the Grand Oaks area, as many of them are over capacity also. So just here, I have a picture. This was taken on December 9th recently. This shows Dr. Christopher J. Hines Elementary. This is from the east. A lot of people working on it. It'll be enclosed probably late January or early February. I want you to know we will have, our committee will bring forth to you in January 2 recommendations, and I'm going to show you those recommendations here at this time. So we have those. We take the whole experience seriously, and so this is just an overview of what we are facing. So if you look at it, you see a lot of red. Red denotes we're over 100% or greater. But the numbers I would draw you to are Broadway Elementary at 137% and Snyder Elementary at 135%. We have other campuses in the Grand Oaks feeder that are over capacity. Those are the 2 primary needs we have that are being addressed by Hines Elementary. Just a little bit up higher in the middle of the page, I would show you where we are with Clark Intermediate and Cox Intermediate. With Clark at 115% capacity, and Cox, it's at 92% of capacity. And we've said here multiple times, when a school's at 90% of capacity, it does feel full. But Cox Intermediate is our facility in the Grand Oaks feeder that is currently under capacity, at least for the moment. So this is a look at the elementary school boundaries as they are today. And if you look at these, the yellow denotes Snyder, and the thing that stands out is just how big it is geographically. A lot of that area is undeveloped, at least for now. Broadway is in purple at the bottom, and that is the other primary area of concern. So those 2 areas that are the primary concern, you can look, are south and southeast of the Grand Parkway. North of the Grand Parkway, in the far north, you'll see Burnham Woods in brown, Bradley in pink, and Ford in green. So that is where we are as of today. I want to just have this slide just for a moment. So we provided for you all the comments and feedback that have come in through the website. And I believe I counted around 89 comments from people. But one thing that is overwhelmingly important to them is, if at all possible, keep subdivisions together. So we've efforted, and that's why we've gone through 29 different scenarios for these 2 options to keep subdivisions together. So this is just a quick look at the subdivisions that make up the Grand Oaks High School area. So this is where we are now, and this is scenario 7. Coming out of committee recently over the 5 months, this is the one we plan to bring to you in January to be the first ever attendance boundary zone for Dr. Christopher J. Hines Elementary School. If you look at it, you'll see in gray, that would represent the Hines Elementary area. Yellow would be Snyder. Purple would be Broadway. And then at the top, you'll still see Ford. You'll see Bradley in the reddish purple color, reddish pink color. One thing I would state, if you look at this above 99, you'll see a little area called C57. That is Grand Imperial Promenade. And then you'll see also above B57, which is undeveloped. Those areas right now would transition from Burnham Woods to Dr. Christopher J. Hines Elementary School. However, no one lives there now. There are no students that attend our school district from there. However, since Burnham Woods is over capacity, having that is a hedge against the future, because we know I believe there are apartments scheduled to go in C57, and we'll just have to see what happens in B57. So it does impact also Burnham Woods Elementary. On the right, you see a table. It shows you the numbers, kids going from Broadway to Snyder to Hines, and Burnham Woods to Hines. So we realize those are real kids with real families. We take everything we do seriously. They are not numbers. And the number we have to accomplish what needs to get done is 1,094, which is one of our lower total numbers. Here's another way of looking at it, and if you look here, Hines Elementary in this scenario that we'll bring forth next month would be under 750, and that is conscious and purposeful because we know that Hines Elementary in the zone that we have it set up to potentially be adopted by you, if you choose to do so, is where much of the growth will be. Snyder, you can see this puts us under 100% at Snyder. Bradley is unimpacted. Broadway is right at 100% and considerably down from where it is today. And Burnham Woods would be unimpacted in the short term, but possibly tremendously impacted depending upon what happens with those two sections north of 99. You can see the total number of 1,094. This is the intermediate zones. This is what we are today. And you can see here on the west side is Cox Intermediate, which was constructed and opened in 2008. You can see Clark Intermediate on the right in that peach, red, orange color, whatever that is, on the right or east side. That opened in the year 2018. So at one time, everybody went to Cox Intermediate, and that was when it opened in 2008. This is where we are now. If you look at it, the line that largely separates on the east Clark from Cox is Burnham Woods Drive. So that's where we are now. And so our recommendation for you next month will be this one. It's been on the website for some time. And this is actually scenario one of 8 scenarios that we vetted. If you can see here in this scenario, Burnham Woods Drive would be the line that separated. 2 areas would transition back to where they were for a decade, and that would be 57J at the bottom, which is the western portion of Legends Run, and 57Y up north, which would be Legends Trace, for a total of 199 students, which I believe was the smallest or right at the smallest number of kids that we would transition of all the scenarios we looked at that would accomplish what needed to be done for Cox and Clark. So here's another way of looking at it. And if you looked at these numbers and you didn't understand what was coming, it would seem somewhat nonsensical. But knowing what's coming with the growth, we would hypothetically, if you choose to adopt this, be flip-flopping the numbers in anticipation of the growth that's coming in area N57 and all throughout the east and north and south side of the Grand Oaks feeder zone. And that's what I have today. I plan to come before you in January, and you have all the information there, including the comments. I appreciate your time. And
Sure. Any questions, thoughts? Now, I'd like for you to keep some of these maps that you have as an overlay, because Bradley Elementary opened when? Is it 2018?
4 years ago.
Clark was
17?
2018.
It's 17.
So 17? I remember driving out there for the dedication, and there was no homes. You could see it from 99. You could see it from everywhere. And you drive out, you can't find it now because it's just covered up. So I bet you these, R57, Q57, all that stuff in 5 years, we're looking at it now, and you're saying it's undeveloped. That will be different. That's what we're seeing.
Bradley opened in 2017.
2017.
And detention ponds, you can do some magical things. So we'll just have to see.
But you said Bradley Elementary is a K through 6, and it's got 950 students? Is that what it was?
It's K through 4.
K through 4?
Yes. And it
950.
has, well, here, I can take you back. Let's go look. It has 1,027 today, if I'm reading it right.
1,027.
Right at the edge of my visual acuity.
Yeah.
So it is, we have 5 portables there at Bradley. Dr. Butler does a great job.
Yes.
And over the next few years, Bradley is scheduled to grow a little bit, but it's close to built out. Not completely, but close to built out, as is Burnham Woods.
Sure.
And that's why Burnham Woods is built out, which is why those areas B57 and C57 north of 99 are of particular interest, because Burnham Woods is over capacity also.
Okay. Any other thoughts? All right, very good.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Moving on to item 5A, consider approval of a guaranteed maximum price amendment for the campus renovation 2023 project and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute the contract documents.
All right, Mr. McCord is handing the baton to Mr. Foster.
Did you get a little nervous when he showed that picture of Hines? Because I know
I was really nervous, not really nervous, but I had to change my picture. So
you got to change yours now.
Mr. McCord can't have a more recent picture than you. That'd be bad.
Well, not oddly enough, the pictures were taken on the same day, just from different angles. So, but to give you a fresh perspective. But for this item, President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Null, it's my pleasure to bring forward for your consideration and approval our campus renovations project for 2023. So what we're bringing forward for your approval is a guaranteed maximum price amendment for this project. So campus renovations 2023 exists as a capital project that we included in our 2019 bond plan. It also has some general fund items mixed in with it as well. The whole procurement was done in accordance with Education Code Chapter 44, our Government Code Chapter 2269, our legal CVD policy at the local board level, and other district operating procedures. So if you recall, in February of 2022, you, our Board of Trustees, selected GTT General Contractors to be our construction manager at risk for this project. Since then, GTT, IBI, our design team, and we, CISD, have worked together to develop the scope of work for this project. Now, and again, in accordance with all the codes I just read, GTT solicited bids, Conroe ISD advertised for those bids, and since then, GTT put together a proposal for the scope of work. The proposal total is $8,294,831. The work we're proposing to do with this money is primarily focused at Giesinger Elementary, which is an HVAC renovation. That's an air conditioning renovation at that campus. There's some ADA considerations to do while we're there as well. We're also working at the current Moorhead Junior High School to rebrand it as Veterans Memorial Junior High. So when the new Moorhead opens, Veterans Memorial will open as an intermediate school. We're expanding the driveway, the queuing space at Veterans Memorial as part of this package as well, so that we can get more cars off of the highways in that area, as well as doing some athletic improvements to keep our athletic facilities up to date, not up to date, but in good working order, which is a general fund item. So we're working on the track at the Woodlands High School, and we're also working on some school board renovations for the baseball facilities under this package. So this time we're requesting your approval.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion second. Any questions, conversation? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item B, consider approval of a guaranteed maximum price amendment for the Safety and Security 2023-2024 project and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute contract documents.
Again, at this time, I want to bring forward your consideration and approval a guaranteed maximum price amendment for our Safety and Security 2023 and 2024 project, and authorize Dr. Null to execute those contract documents so we can begin that work. This is the final installment of what was our Safety and Security standalone project in the 2019 bond referendum. It is fully funded with the 2019 bond funds, as it was called for in that election. Our Safety and Security project is a project done with the same code references we did for the item previously.
Right.
So in February 2020, our Board of Trustees selected Ellisor Constructors to be our construction manager at risk for this scope of work. We've been working with them each year in the completion of our safety and security work around the district. The 2023-2024 installment will complete the allocation of projects. Like I mentioned, there are still a couple of campuses left that will have major work for the just not too distant future, which will complete the entire campus from this round of safety and security work. Ellisor has been working with PBK, our designer, and our Conroe ISD to develop the scope of work for this particular proposal. They've developed a proposal in the amount of $10,957,058. At this time, we're requesting your approval.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any questions or conversation? All right, hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. All right. Item C, consider and approve selection of architectural and engineering building envelope and building commissioning service providers and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute contracts for those services, which is where we're at now.
All right, this time, I'm bringing forward for your consideration and approval a pool of service providers for architectural engineering, building envelope, and building commissioning services. And I'm asking if you authorize Dr. Null to be able to execute and negotiate and execute contracts for these services. Now, this is not a guarantee for work. This is just an authorization to engage these firms as the need for their services arise. The purpose of this selection is to establish the team of design professionals that may be utilized in the future capital planning and capital project efforts for Conroe ISD. The district is not required to utilize a formal RFQ process. We choose to as a matter of transparency and best practice. And when we do so, we follow the government code just like we do with our construction procurements as well. The use and selection process for architectural engineering service is very well regulated by a litany of codes. I'd be happy to read to you if you'd like. But they're all there, and we're following them as best we can. We advertised a formal RFQ using that process. We advertised in the local courier, which is the state level requirement. We also used our purchasing's online advertising system. And we had 40 companies respond to this RFQ. Some are in multiple categories, so the numbers don't add up to 40, but we had 16 for architectural, 15 for engineering, 15 for building envelope, and 17 for building commissioning. The responses were carefully reviewed by our committee. The recommendations in the selection are believed to be highly competent, demonstrated by their qualifications they submitted and we reviewed. The district is confident we'll be able to negotiate fair and reasonable prices with each of these firms when they're engaged for individual tasks. And individual contracts would be negotiated at the time the task is needed. So at this time, we're requesting your approval of the list that's provided in your board item. I'd be happy to read them if you like, but you have them in front of you.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we are requesting your approval.
We did have access to them as well. So.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign. All right, motion carries. Mr. Foster, almost done. Consider and approve selection of survey, test and balance geotechnical engineering and material testing service providers and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute contracts for those services. This is different than item C.
This is a little different. I mean, these are behind the scenes professional services that are required when we do engage for land purchases, for building design, for construction, for materials testing. They're third-party verifications required by, again, a litany of codes that we have to read to you in this process. Just like with our architectural engineering and building commissioning and building envelope services, we did follow a RFQ process that we're not required to for these, but as a matter of transparency and best practice, that's what we choose to do. So we wrote an RFQ, we advertised it in the courier. We also utilized our purchasing online system. Doing so, we received 27 responses, and just like with the other item, the numbers don't add up because some people qualify in multiple categories. But we had 7 for surveying, 6 for test and balance, 16 for geotechnical engineering, and 16 for materials testing. Again, we believe they're highly qualified, and they demonstrated so in the qualification statements that they presented to us and we reviewed. We do feel confident that we can negotiate fair and reasonable prices with these firms, and at this time we're requesting you approve the pool, and we will negotiate individual contracts when their tasks arise.
All right, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Once again, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign. Very good, motion carries. Mr. Foster. And receive capital improvements. So now you get to show us your pictures.
Indeed, and I do like to take this opportunity to show you and give you an update on the capital improvements we have underway throughout the district. I'm going to start with our safety and security project for 2022. This project is in the stages of wrapping up currently. They've been working for the past 12 months or so, installing all the things above the ceiling, on the walls, access controls, security lighting, hardware, the impact resistant films at our vestibules. These are the locations they've been working. That project is moving along well. It is finishing on schedule. We'll begin working our way through the closeout process with them over the next couple of months, and then next month we look to bring you an update as we start the next installment that you just approved. At our new Moorhead Junior High School, this high school is on schedule. We're scheduled to open for students in August of 2023. You can see from our overhead picture here, the building itself is very near the dry state. On the inside of that building, we're putting in the finishes. You can see the gym floor of one of the two gyms is in progress. The classrooms are coming together very nicely. Overall, that project is on schedule, and we're scheduled to open in August 2023. East County Transportation, which you board approved in our November board meeting, is on that same site. This is the same site from another angle to show you the site that will be East County Transportation. Since we made the approval, we've begun the earthwork. So that used to be covered with grass. Now it is becoming dirt, which will be the parking area for the East County bus fleet. The building pad for their new building for their operations center for East County is near complete as well, and the building foundations and things that nature are beginning to start over the next several weeks. So that project is moving along nicely. We'll be working on that for about a year. So it'll be open for our use, generally speaking, about this time next year.
Okay.
Now, at North Transportation, which was a part of that same approval, I don't have anything to show you except the concept plan for what we're looking at on that site. We spent the last month looking at and setting up the temporary facilities for the North County operations to move into while we take over their existing building, convert it to shops, so the fleet mechanics can have more space to work on the much larger fleet at Conroe Center. And then we're working on a new operations building for that operations department. So they moved out of one. Over the course of next year, we're constructing their new facility, and we'll move them into their new facility about this time next year at that site as well.
Can you go back? I just want to make a point here just so that everybody can get your bearings on what you're seeing. So the lower left there is Gullo Ford, and then the lower right is Armstrong Elementary. So it sits kind of behind those two facilities. I just want to kind of get you oriented as to where it sits.
And I believe we've maximized every square foot of that property that we can use before the city gets involved with our need for trees and green space. So we will get as much out of the north facility as we can in this process. Now, at Conroe High School, this is a renovation of the Conroe High School campus, so it's a massive reorganization. When we're finished with the project, Conroe High School will be under one roof. So on the left side of your screen, the bright white roof on the left side is the CTE wing for the new programs that are currently housed in the rotunda, the back building, the back ag building, which is hard to see on the picture, and some classes in the annex. That facility is beginning to turn over for our use. It's spring break. Part of that other milestone is on the right side of your screen. That dark roof is the new athletic facility. We're working to get the gyms open at spring break. We'll move out of the existing gyms. We'll move the current band, choir, orchestra into the existing gyms while the athletics takes over the new gyms. We will be able to finish the CTE wing once the fine arts department is out, and then turn over all those facilities for full use next school year. That will allow us to start the process of removing the rotunda, the annex, and the ag building in the back, which have reached the end of their serviceable life. We're going to remove those from service this summer, and then continue on with that project with the new fine arts wing, the new cafeteria, the new kitchen, and bring that project together. Overall, the project is on schedule and will be there through the calendar year 2025. At Oak Ridge High School, this is our overhaul of the Oak Ridge High School campus as well as our South County CTE Center. So from this overhead picture, the light colored roof in the middle bottom of the picture is our new South County CTE Center. Just to the right of that bright white roof is the new administration, new front door for Oak Ridge High School, which is scheduled for use when the students come back from the winter break. So the campus administration is working through the logistics of making that change internally. So they will likely begin using it a few weeks into the winter break, but it will be ready for them to occupy while we're gone for the winter break. And then they'll use it as they can during the normal. They've got a job to do to run this campus and move. So it's a heroic effort for them to use that new front door. But that project is moving along nicely. As we get to the summer, as we work through the spring semester, we will continue the overhaul of the main campus and finish that scope of work, creating that new main street down the middle, and updating some of the finishes in this first phase of that Oak Ridge High School project. Overall, that project is on schedule, and we'll be working this contract through the summer of 2023. This is a look from the inside, which is the new admin looking out the front doors, so it gets you a good view of what the interior feel is going to feel like. Move along to Christopher J. Hines Elementary School. So this school is also scheduled to open in August of 2023. And I'm giving you the back door picture so you can see all the finishes for that building. They started in the back and they're worked their way around to the front door. So if you drove by it today, it would look largely unfinished because the real work currently is going on in the back. Over the next several weeks, they'll be making their corners around to the front, and that finished brickwork and other finished materials reaches the front. Like I said, that building is on schedule and is scheduled to open in August of 2023. At our new maintenance and child nutrition facility, that project is also on schedule. You can see the main building, the larger of the two buildings, is nearly closed in. The roof is almost 100% complete. The wall panels are almost done. The interior framing and systems are in progress on the inside, building all the office spaces that will house all of our maintenance, custodial, and child nutrition finally in one location in the district. The back building, they're skinning it right now. The roof will start over the next week or two, and then that project is moving along nicely. So it is scheduled for our use during the summer of 2023, and it appears to be on schedule from our standpoint. At Caney Creek High School, this is our upgrades to help Caney Creek better handle the 6A population at that growing high school. During the Thanksgiving break, we turned over and opened the inside of their new front entry. I told you last month we're going to continue working on it to put the finishing details on it. You can see here we're looking at the actual waterproofing on the roof. We're going to put the white top sheets on it over the next several weeks and put the finished metals and clean up the front door. It is usable for the campus, and they've been using it since we got returned from the Thanksgiving break. So it's a little better operation than the temporary facility we had in while we were working this on. As we move around that building, we're started working on the athletics PE additions that are help increase the capacity for the other programs that are serving that campus. So you're seeing the foundation work here happening on both corners of this building, which will be the expanded weight room facilities and help expand the locker room facilities that will better facilitate the growing student population at that campus. Overall, the project is on schedule and will be there through the end of the summer 2023. Now at Collins Intermediate, this is our PE or a gym addition for Collins Intermediate. We're also doing some life cycle improvements on the mechanical systems that are inside that building. The gym itself is our first milestone. You can see the white roof on it. The brick is all the way around done. The metal wall panels have been completed since this picture was taken. On the inside, they're currently painting. Again, the progress every day is stunning. This is a week old at this point. Over the next week or so, they'll be putting up the basketball goals and get ready to put the floors down. When the students return from winter break, we'll be having PE in the space. So it is moving along nicely. Once they're done with this, I guess they will continue to be on that campus doing the life cycle and security improvements to that campus, and we'll be there through August of 2023. And that's our update.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions?
I think the Chris Hines Elementary yay is kind of like the Aggie whoop. Like anytime you say Chris Hines Elementary, everybody's got a yay. Like it's the normal.
It's neat.
It's the thing, right?
You start traditions.
That's right. It's how you start them. Somebody's got to start them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. All right. Moving on to item 6, which is our business and finance. We have received financial reports. Ms. Garza, good evening.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, Dr. Nall. It is my pleasure this evening to present the financial statements as of November 30th. The first statement you'll see this evening is the balance sheet. Presented here is the general fund, the debt service fund, child nutrition, and self-funded insurance. The balance sheet shows the district's assets, liabilities, and fund balance. In the general fund, total assets of $618.7 million. Debt service, 156.7, child nutrition, 16.9, and self-funded insurance, 9.7. The next statement is, I'm sorry?
Why do we have an allowance for uncollected?
So this is an entry that a calculation we do every year for tax collections to estimate what portion of them we believe to be uncollectible. And what we do is look at the 15 oldest years of delinquent taxes that are out there, and then book an entry to show the allowance that they could be uncollectible.
What percentage is that?
Of the entire.
What's your methodology? What percentage are you using?
Well, it's based on the actual outstanding delinquent taxes for the oldest 15 years that are still on the books.
As a percentage, what would it be, Mr. Rice, approximately? Just ballpark.
And the entire levy is $507 million this year.
Okay,
Okay.
And oftentimes when we're looking at those percentages, we're over 100-some odd percent collected.
Right, and that include, what we're looking at there is, yes, the current levy compared to what we collect in delinquent taxes, penalty and interest, all of that combined. All right, our second statement is the income statement. The income statement shows the district's revenues and expenditures. In the general fund, our year-to-date revenue is $113.1 million. You will see local revenue tax collections are starting to trickle in. We should really start to see that ramping up during the months of December and January. State program revenues, we have received our first 2 payments from the state for our state funding allocation this year. Total expenses in the general fund are $101.9 million. Our 2019 bond referendum update, total funds expended and encumbered year-to-date, $524.3 million, estimated to complete just under $125 million. This is our self-funded insurance update. The month of November, we ran a deficit just under $100,000. Outside of one large claimant, it was actually a really good month for the plan. We are still running a surplus for the year of $526,000.
That won't last.
Everyone will enjoy it while we have it.
Yeah.
Our investments as of November 30th, par value $582.4 million. The pools are at 3.95. Wood Forest 4.3%. Our shorter term investments 0.82. Our longer term with TCG is at 1.1, and then our combined portfolio is at 3.6. And then our benchmark, the 90-day T-bill, is at 4.14.
Any questions for Ms. Gardner? All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I do have a motion. In light of the testimony, yes, is it okay for me to ask for something for next
We're
month?
not done yet.
Oh, my bad.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's all right.
I guess I jumped on that too fast.
You're excited. I get it. I like it. No, we're fixing to go into executive session at this point. So then when we come out of executive session, before we adjourn, I'll make sure you can get that done. All right. The board will go into closed session pursuant to section 551.071 and 551.074 of the Texas Open Meeting Act. Any action, vote, or decision of the board with regard to any matter discussed in closed session will be made when the board returns to open session. The time is 7:18. The board is now in open session. The time is 7:46. Moving to item, was this 13, action on executive session. We have no action on that item. Before we move to adjourn, I had received an email from Ms. Olenweller just suggesting that we open it up at the end if any board member has anything they'd like to add as a future board agenda item. So we can't make any motions on that suggestion, but I appreciate the suggestion. It was a good suggestion, and I would encourage you at this time, if you have any future agenda items, that you could email me or email Dr. Nolan. We'll get that on. We'll discuss it and make sure that it makes it to the next meeting, and then at our following meeting, we can put on the agenda to make that an agenda item, if that makes sense. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Anything else? If not, our meeting is adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everybody.